one of the things that I would encourage is not to try to do it alone. You know, food is such a charged issue. Aha, yes. People are nodding and going, oh yeah, food is a charged issue. And for so many reasons, you know, it's our habits, it's our upbringing, social feel good, yeah. But you can, you know, the feel good is a good part. You know, so one of the things, if I'm working with someone and they finally, okay, I'm going to go 6-8 weeks and no gluten, and then they say, well, it seemed to have made a real difference or something. But I encourage them, you know, you're not going to kill yourself. You're not going to break anything if you did try a little gluten down the road. And the reason that can sometimes be useful is that it's that embodied experience. I gave it up, I felt better, I added it back in, you know, it didn't sit well with me. Or even, you know,
Yeah,
I've been doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're kind of, but you've been really working on cleaning things up for yourself. In other words, you're not right at that threshold now. So you can get away with a little bit of stuff, and that's okay. You know, but you know that if you push it too far, that it's going to hurt you.
One day is more amount.
But the thing, but the thing is that you make those decisions for yourself because of what you've embodied. You know that I'm not going to have a cappuccino 4 days in a row because it's going to upset my trip, and it's going to take me a while to recover. I'm not going to skip that 4th cappuccino because I read it in a book or because somebody told me to do it. I'm going to do it because I know. And that's the point you want to get to. You want to play around with these things enough. You're looking here for a diet that's going to serve you for the rest of your life. You want to play around with these things to convince yourself that this is real. And if it's real, it'll be real. You know, if you have a real problem with the food and you give it up for a decent period of time, and you add it back in, and you're not convinced, you give it up again, you add it back in, it's all about trial and error. And it's not about lab testing. The lab testing is pretty much close to useless. Simply because if you may have a significant reaction to milk. I'm sorry I keep picking on you, but if we were to do a test, a blood test to see if, or a stool test to see if you had a reaction to milk, it's very likely that test would be negative. Not because you don't have a real reaction to it, but because you've stayed away from it, so that whole system isn't fired up in you. You wouldn't detect anything. But and a lot of people have figured this out on their own. I don't eat those things because I feel bad when I eat those things. They know that, and they don't eat them, and they test negative for those things. But the other thing is that if you're on fire for other reasons, you've got a disordered gut, you're eating a lot of foods that you're reacting to, you're dealing with a bad marriage and a bad job and just dissatisfaction with your life, and everything is just, you know, terrible in your life, and just you're just on fire. Then you're going to show up as having reactions to a lot of things in that testing that may not be real for you. It's just you're reacting to everything. You're twitchy. The English have a great word for it. They just say your immune system is twitchy. You know, you're twitchy. And yeah. And so the test will come back positive for everything you test for. But it doesn't mean that that's, you know, the real culprits may be just a few foods. And so the testing, and interestingly, in the few times when people have attempted to look at the different kind of testing, blood testing, skin testing, stool testing, and kinesiology, you know, muscle testing. Muscle testing wins every time. Not by much, but you know, what's very soft testing actually turns out to be more accurate than the laboratory tests. And I just again, I just want to say one thing about skin testing. Skin testing is looking at reactions involving IgE, immunoglobulin E. And so, which is, you know, you're dealing here with things that are systemic, IgG and IgM. So trying to decide if you have a reaction to, if you have IgE reaction, sometimes it's just very misleading. And just as an example, you could have a life-threatening allergy to penicillin. You know, that if they gave you penicillin, you would go into anaphylactic shock and possibly die. And yet, you can't reliably predict who's got a life-threatening reaction to penicillin with skin testing, because you can't, because they can be so sensitive to penicillin that the next dose they get, they're going to have a life-threatening reaction, and yet you inject a little under the skin, no reaction. So but skin testing is easy to do. It's become kind of the norm. It's just not very useful when you're dealing with foods. Yeah.
But if you do have a reaction to skin testing, is that predictive?
It often is. Yeah. You'd want to definitely avoid those things. Yes. Yeah. So if it's positive, it means something, but if it's negative, it doesn't. Yeah.
Well, kimchi and sauerkraut, how do they serve us?
That gets into a different discussion. Sort of that's about the health of your gut and eating.
You were talking a lot about the gut, though.
Yeah. No, fermented foods, kimchi, kombucha, sauerkraut, pickles. You want to watch the sodium content, because some of those are really, really high in sodium. But and learning to make your own is really easy, surprisingly easy. But yeah, fermented food. And in fact, we did an 8-minute video on fermented foods on the website too. Just look up fermentation or something. And it's kind of how to do it. Just 8 minutes, how to do it.
It's on there?
Yeah, on Organic MD. Yeah.
So what kind of carbohydrates do you recommend? Because we have to get a certain amount of calories.
Everything contains carbohydrates, so that's a good thing. So what are sort of complex carbohydrates?
Well, beans are one.
Beans are one. So again, just eating. So beans.
Quinoa?
Do beans have a lot of sugar?
Not a lot. No.
Okay.
Beans, seeds.
That's why people are eating quinoa rather than.
Yeah, quinoa is a seed, not a grain.
Right, that's what I know.
Vegetables. So a lot of carbs in broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, things like that.
Not much carbs, not much calories in broccoli.
No, but it does have, it's got protein, it's got carbs, so it's.
You have to eat a lot of broccoli to get. I'm trying to gain weight.
Yeah. Well, then if you're trying to gain weight, you want to be eating fats.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's,
I'm doing that.
in 2010 and again this year, if you read carefully those recommendations for the dietary recommendations, the recommendation is that a third of your calories come from fats. 33%, a third of your calories come from fats. And most people don't get anywhere near that. What are good sources of fats? Oils, fats, avocados, seeds, nuts.
But not all oils. I mean.
No, not all oils.
Not vegetable oils.
Well, rice bran oil as ones that are monosaturated, some olive oil.
But a lot of people are still using canola, and that's another thing.
Yeah, canola is just it's very inflammatory,
Right.
and canola is another big GMO crop.
Right.
Yeah.
Try and find organic.
What's the name of that drink? For protein drinking?
Not the kombucha.
Hey, spell that.
Kombucha is KAMBOUCHA.
They have a lot. They have 2 different brands at Whole Foods.
Or KOM or KAM? KAM? Kombucha, okay. Yeah, Whole Foods has a lot. And again, it's something that's very easy to make on your own.
Well, I went to the website to see how to make it. I thought it was so complicated.
No, it's actually really easy.
Really?
Yeah. We'll do a video of it, because I make it.
On kombucha?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What's the basic ingredient in it? I've never heard of it.
Well, it's basically, have you ever heard, the way you make vinegar is with a,
Starter.
well, it's not a starter really, it's a, what do they call the
Mother?
The mother. It's got a mother. And so there's a thing that grows on top of the vinegar that's kind of part algae, or not algae, but part fungus and part yeast. And it makes this kind of leathery thing.
Yeah.
And that's the starter. And so you take tea and some sugar and you just lay in a clean jar, you lay this mother on top, cover it over so it can breathe, but you don't get bugs and things in it. And it just converts the sugars into vinegar. So that's basically what you're doing. And it's just.
You can take the mother out of the kombucha tea and then do that?
Well, the mother grows as the kombucha ages.
Right.
And you can then separate it into 2, and now you've got one to give to your friends or to start a second batch, and you save one.
Okay.
Well, and that's like apple cider vinegar, so good with the mother. They're so good.
Yeah, no, kombucha is just a vinegar.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kombucha vinegar.
Well, I mean, they don't call it vinegar, but it's a vinegar.
You put it on
And I've
salad.
been using apple
Good.
cider vinegar with the mother a lot, like a couple of teaspoons in water, a couple of times.
Yeah, yeah, apple cider vinegar is good. But that, you know, the vinegars, those things are good, but those don't give you, well, they actually do give you some carbs.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
You know, because it's just the sugars that get converted. But the other things besides beans, seeds, and vegetables, things like sweet potatoes, ancient rice, so things like basmati.
Can you do white basmati?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gotta be brown basmati.
No, white's okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't that very high glycemic?
No, it's not. Basmati is not high glycemic,
Even in the white?
even in the white. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, Gandhi lived, you know, he was in his 80s when he was assassinated, but most weeks and weeks on end, all he would eat was white basmati rice.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Amazing. That doesn't, that's not my experience. When I eat that, it's just like sugar.
Well, but that's, you want to pay, if that's what's true for you. Brown is better.
Brown.
I'd rather you do brown.
Yeah.
But the white, but it's the difference between the short grain modern rice and the ancient basmati rice is different. You know, so I'm saying it's the older varieties. Things like true yams, not the sweet potatoes, but you know, these things that are this big and you know that are from the Caribbean or from West Africa. Those are very excellent sources of complex carbohydrates.
Can you even buy them though in the Whole Foods or something?
I haven't seen them in Whole Foods, but I've seen them at the farmers market in Mountain View every now and then, and there's a number of small stores that sell African and Caribbean foods between San Jose and Redwood City. If you just look up Caribbean foods or African foods, you'll find stores that have yams.
So you're saying basmati, this type of rice is really not GMO'd, or they don't, that's not one of the ones that.
Right. Yeah, basmati is an older variety.
So
But-
short grain, organic short grain brown rice is what I mostly eat.
You'd be, depending if it's one of the Japanese varieties.
No, it's, those farmers, the
Longboard?
Lundberg, yeah.
Oh, Lundgren.
Yeah.
I mean, Lundberg. Yeah, their stuff is good.
Their stuff is good.
Yeah, and the one Kubota.
What about the ones from India?
Yeah, it was mostly. Yeah, India. I mean, India. They grow 120 different varieties of rice. A lot of those are good. Kubota is a. It's kind of hard to find their stuff. It's sort of a delicious rice, but they're a third generation now Japanese farmers that grow rice in kind of the southern end of the valley, and they've adapted these traditional Japanese varieties to do well here, and their rice is just amazing.
And what about wild rice?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
Wild rice is it's not even rice.
It's not even
No.
rice.
Yeah.
Is it okay though, or is it a con?
No, it's a seed, but it's good.
It's a
It's good.
seed,
Yeah,
okay.
it's good, and it's not GMO or anything.
I like it too.
But I just want to get back. So what I wanted to end with is, what do you do? When I say don't try to do this alone, you know, maybe entering into a contract with other people. I'll support you, you support me. You know, I want to do this, and if I feel like I'm gonna succumb and have a croissant, you know, first I promise I'll give you a call. You know, there.
Yeah, after I have the first bite, of course.
But also just kind of thinking short term. You know, if you think I'm going to give up bread for the rest of my life, that can be, you'll never do it. But if I'm going to give up bread for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, you know, and I'm just long enough to prove to myself
Okay,
that it's good.
okay.
Okay,